Hi, everyone. I'm Matthew DeSantis,
And I'm Kaylie Shapiro.
and we're all about the Eagles, water ice, and cheesesteaks. We're talking the Pennsylvania Derby here on NYRA Bets. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this NYRA Bets preview of Saturday's Grade 1 Pennsylvania Derby. Very pleased to be joined by my colleague Kaylie Shapiro. And before we get into Philadelphia's premier Grade 1 race, we got to talk and let you know about subscribing to NYRA Bets YouTube. Subscribing is entirely free of cost, just notifies you when new videos drop on the channel, whether those are race previews, full card analyses, handicapping and betting tutorials, weekly programs, and so much more. So make sure to press that like and subscribe button today. Kaylie, you are down in Kentucky right now, getting ready for the Keeneland sales. Can't wait to hear more about some of that over the next few days as you're down there and hear about some updates on NYRA Bets and on your own personal X. But you're originally a Jersey girl. I'm originally from Philly and outside of Philly. So Philadelphia, Pennsylvania Derby, always a big deal. And this year the field came up pretty strong and certainly is a very exciting race.
Definitely an exciting race and a jam-packed field. I mean, we're seeing a whole bunch of names that really make this race pretty interesting and definitely a pretty good betting race as well. Even if you're not trying to get too creative maybe with who you go with on top, there's a few prices here that make a lot of sense underneath, and I thought it was a pretty interesting race.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it really is. I mean, it's one of those things where we kind of saw this coming for a while in terms of this race because you and I were up in Saratoga and we were kind of looking around and going, does anybody want to run against the big guy? The big guy, of course, was Sovereignty. And the answer was not really. Nobody really wanted to go against him. And so as a result, everybody and their cousin was targeting the Pennsylvania Derby. And
Mhm.
so that was kind of the race that everybody who didn't want to face Sovereignty up in New York kind of decided, oh, we're going to go here instead. As a result, it's a 10 horse field. You have a lot of nice horses in here. And like you said, it makes it for a compelling betting race. There are some horses that are maybe a little bit later developing, but there's also some really established names, obviously led by Baeza, who we saw run against Sovereignty in the Jim Dandy and finish third in the Belmont and in the Kentucky Derby. So that's definitely the headliner, but Bob Baffert's got horses. Brendan Walsh is bringing Gosger up. So should be a lot of fun.
Definitely. And you bring up Baeza. I mean, definitely you can take into consideration that Baeza was the horse that got the closest to Sovereignty out of anybody in this field. And I
Yeah.
certainly put weight into that with the way that I approached this race and thought about how these horses stacked up against one another. There's a lot going on here. You have goal oriented for Bob Baffert. He's obviously always dangerous wherever he brings his horses, but this horse has been beaten by this group a few times, but also I believe that this is an improving horse as well. And then you have Gosger, Baeza, as we said, and a few others in here that were very interesting to me that are bigger prices, like David of Athens and Big Truz, even.
Yeah.
Few in here that I think are pretty interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's start by talking about Baeza a little bit. Your morning line favorite installed at 2-1 for John Sheriffs. And like you said, this one, he got close at least to
Mhm.
Sovereignty, although you and I both believe Sovereignty was nowhere near 100% fitness for that Jim Dandy, but still ran really well. And you mentioned the pretty significant margin between him and the rest of that field in the Jim
Mhm.
Dandy, and certainly has shown a lot of ability in that third place in the Kentucky Derby in Belmont. And the only horses that are beating him these days are Journalism and Sovereignty. And last I looked, Journalism and Sovereignty aren't up on the screen right now. They're not running. So, certainly John Sheriffs has got to feel pretty good about the horse that he has. One of the things you noted, I believe it was during the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival and for Belmont Stakes, was he just physically wasn't quite at the same level of Journalism and Sovereignty. And that's
Mhm.
something we've seen him kind of continue to grow and fill out.
Mhm.
He certainly looks, I think, according to you, the best he's looked to this point coming into the Pennsylvania Derby.
Based on the video, he looked really good. I was
Yeah.
impressed by the way that he looked. He looked like he muscled up a little bit, and he certainly impressed me on video. I wish I could see him in person. It's hard to tell
Yeah.
if it's the best he's maybe ever looked, but against this field of horses, I mean, here's the thing. Baeza showed up to face Sovereignty in the Jim Dandy, and he didn't disgrace himself whatsoever. He ran his heart out that day. He only lost by a length, whether Sovereignty was at 100% or 20%. It doesn't even matter. The horse
Yeah.
ran a really good race to run second to a great horse. And I favor that over horses that just showed us absolutely nothing when they ran up against Sovereignty. I mean, Magnitude lost by over 20 lengths.
Yeah.
He was absolutely devastated. Mile and an eighth year, this is a big name you would think of as well as Magnitude.
Yeah.
But to me, a horse that was just absolutely gutted by Sovereignty coming in here, I just don't have a lot of confidence in him because I don't know how much confidence he'll have in himself either. And in my opinion, Baeza has danced every dance and has, played with the big boys this entire year. And this is the race. This is their last opportunity to have. This is as sure of a shot as they're going to get for this horse to pick up a grade one in his world year, another grade one. So in my opinion, he's very dangerous here. I think he looks really good. And I also like that he's been at Parx training over the track as well.
Yeah, no, he got in a few days ago. He's been able to kind of get some work in over the track. So certainly getting some familiarity is a good thing for this West Coast shipper. Listen, you bring up a horse like Magnitude and certainly 6-1 on the morning line. I think he should be in the sprint or the mile or something like that. I just don't think he wants any part of 9 furlongs because Bracket Buster was putting him away when he was setting his own fractions in the Travers. And the comparison I'm going to make, and you kind of brought up the fact that he was so demoralized by that effort.
Mm-hmm.
I do worry a little bit about that. It reminds me a bit of when Speaker's Corner went up against Flightline in the Met Mile several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Speaker's Corner was a really good horse, far better than any horse Magnitude has ever been. And Flightline put Speaker's Corner away in such an embarrassing way. And
Mm-hmm.
Speaker's Corner was never the same horse after that. And you worry about that. And the other thing I'll say is Magnitude going into the Risen Star where he freaked, ran an 80, 80, 74 in the 3 races before he ran in the Risen Star. He runs a huge race that day, goes to the bench for a long time, comes back, runs a huge race in the Iowa Derby. Then he runs an 87 in the Travers. Well, until noted otherwise, I'm going to assume 87 is the norm for him. And that those two 105, 108s were a little bit anomaly. I think this is just who he is. I've never liked this horse at this distance. I think he's a talented horse, to be clear. He definitely has talent. I just think a mile and eighth. And by the way, there is loads of speed in this race.
Yes.
So he's not getting away up front the way he did in the Travers when Ben Curtis tried to divvy out the fractions, because even then the Hurricane came for him. The Hurricane's definitely going to come for him on Saturday because you got Mo
and faster
Gosger.
than it did last time.
Oh my, yes, it's going to come a lot faster. And so you got Baeza, you got Big Truz, you got a lot of horses with good early speed in this race that are going to apply pressure to the outside of Magnitude. I just don't see it, even at 6-1. I just don't like that price on him at all. But listen, let's talk about Bob Baffert, because you got to talk about Bob when you talk about Parx and the Pennsylvania Derby. He always ships in a dangerous host, goal-oriented, ran a huge race. We were there that day at the Haskell at Monmouth Park, ran a big third to Journalism, and Gosger was right there. A lightly raced horse, but one that has loads of talent, and it just seems to be doing nothing but improving. Irad Ortiz Jr. takes over the mount for Flavien Prat, and you got to think this horse has a big shot if it's able to run back to that 101 in the Haskell.
Well, I believe that this horse is improving. I mean, I know that it doesn't look like it if you look at, the 89 in between, but I look at this as a horse that's kind of gotten the short end of the stick a couple of times. I mean, drew the 1 hole in the Preakness, had a really horrible trip that day, ran at 89. And then in the Haskell, ran a 101, was to the far outside, sat a nice trip, but also, was running up against a very nice field of horses that day in Journalism and Gosger. So I believe that this horse is improving. So not this time. Certainly, I mean, I love the pedigree on this horse. Bob Baffert's always dangerous wherever he ships. And Irad taking over is something that's very interesting to me, because obviously he's riding great. And I'd imagine that there's a reason why he's riding this horse in the Pennsylvania Derby. So to me, this horse is in the mix for me. I think he can sit a stalking trip and hopefully work out a similar trip like he did in the Haskell and have a good shot at running in the money. I have him third because I believe that he's not coming here to not run in the money. And also this is a horse just figures wise that fits really well and that I believe is improving.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And he's a horse, if you're playing a late pick 5, obviously I'm going to be including him. I have him third as well, but one that I take really seriously, just as I do Baeza, even though I don't have Baeza up top, I still think Baeza is obviously a horse. I'm not fading by any stretch of the imagination, just trying to maybe get a little creative up top. But I'm going to go to a horse that you have fourth, but I know that you like as a lot as well, and that is the number 9 Gosger for trainer Brendan Walsh. This is a horse that you talk about a hard luck horse to some extent. If not for journalism, he's a 2-time Grade 1 winner. He almost won the Preakness, and he almost won the Haskell. And, in some ways, he fits a similar profile to Baeza in that he just happened to run up against one of these two horses that's just better than everybody else. And, now that he's not there, you got to go, well, how good is Baeza? Brendan Walsh has been training this horse to this point. That's always dangerous. You saw how well he did off a little bit of a layoff and freshening going into the Haskell. It's the same sort of time now going into the Pennsylvania Derby. He's firing off some significant workouts leading up to this. A nice 5 furlong bullet. Gosker's a horse I love. He fits the same profile as Goal Oriented, relatively lightly raced, ascending speed figures, and a trustworthy trainer in Brendan Walsh, who I just know is going to get this horse absolutely right. And Luis Saez remains up in the mountain. The one thing I like about Gosger is he can pass horses. He can sit a little off the pace. So Moplex to his outside, Goal Oriented, Big Truz, Magnitude, they can go out up front. Gosger can sit 4th or 5th and make that first run at those leaders if they wear each other out. But Louis can be very tactical with this horse. And I just think at 4-1 on the morning line, we'll see what he ends up at come post time. But I just thought, as an alternative to Baeza, he was the one that was most interesting to me, and that's why I put him up top.
I believe so. And I think a lot of people are going to go, I mean, you're a little different because you have Gosger on top of Baeza, but I was pretty tempted to put this horse higher, maybe trying to get a little bit creative, even though I did use a shorter price with the Goal Oriented in third. But Gosger, like you said, fits a very similar profile and a similar profile as Baeza as well. I definitely believe that this horse is going to run in the money. I think when you're talking about the 3 big horses here, it is going to be Baeza, Goal-Oriented, and Gosger that fit similar profiles, certainly from a pedigree standpoint as well. And Brendan Walsh is a great trainer, obviously, good connections coming into this. A horse I've always really liked. Maybe he'll have a bit more company up front than he's used to, in my opinion. I'm not saying that the pace is going to be faster or anything, but perhaps I don't know how this horse would react to being around so many other horses up front. Like you just said, there are a lot of horses that'll be forwardly placed. I'm just curious to see the trip that he's going to set, but I do have him 4th. And honestly, I think, I'm pretty confident in Baeza to win this race. I believe that he's the best horse in the race. I really do. But I think I'm going to end up using all 4 of the horses I used in my top 4 on a ticket if I'm playing a season. It's just because I can see any of these horses kind of taking a step up. Like you said, they fit similar profiles. But Gosger is pretty interesting in here. Curious to see the trip that he's going to set.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think you're right. And Moplex to his outside certainly makes it a little bit more complicated because that's a horse that likes to go to the front. Gosger has very good early speed as well. Louis has got some options, though. You have Baeza right to your outside. That's a horse that has decent early speed also. And then you look at Big Truz, another horse with good early speed. So there's a lot of speed horses in this race. Goal Oriented right to his inside. David of Athens, a horse that has good early speed. Magnitude, obviously. Even Altobelli, the long shot. So Sandy on the inside. There's a lot of speed, and it's going to be interesting to see how they all decide to go. One of the things that can happen, and we've talked about this before, is when there's a lot of speed on paper, the thing is the jockeys and the trainers look at that too, and suddenly everybody gets cute and starts to take back, and next thing you know, somebody's just out on the lead by themselves. And so sometimes when you see a speed duel, it doesn't always end up happening. But you have to imagine Moplex breaking from that far outside is going to want to go and clear over a lot of horses to save ground. And that's just going to apply pressure to Magnitude, who really only has one way to win. So at the very least, those two are going to go at each other up front, but I think they're going to have company. And again, I think Louis can be kind of tactical. If Moplex is hell-bent on getting to the front, I think Louis just lets him go and kind of follows Moplex over in a lot of ways and just kind of can sit maybe 2 wide or 3 wide behind them going into that first turn. So we'll see, though. You're right. That how they break and how they go into that first turn is going to be so important. But
We
Also
know
want to spend
Bob
some time.
Baffert's going to go with Cole
Yeah,
Luria.
exactly.
Where he's looking at the race and saying, maybe he's thinking similarly here. But I mean, goal oriented did sit ahead of Gosger, I'm pretty sure, in the Haskell as well.
Yeah.
So maybe similar dynamics that we see on Saturday. But yeah, Gosger, I mean, there's no knock really on this horse whatsoever. He's an improving horse and has not done anything wrong other than run second in two
Yeah.
pretty big races. So there's not really any knock on Gosger here. I'm just curious to see the trip.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see the trip. But let's talk about some long shots because we talked about a lot of the favorites, obviously, with regards to goal oriented, Gosger, Baeza. Talked about Magnitude a little bit and why we're hesitant to support him at that 6-1 price. Big Truz is 10-1. That's a horse neither of us have included in our top four. I think the big question I have with Big Truz, even though you have Justify out of a Curlin mare, I do wonder if going long is really what this horse necessarily wants to do. And also, yes, that Ellis Park Derby was an impressive, 7-length victory. That was also going a mile. That configuration is also a little bit unique, very similar to the Wilson shoot actually at Ellis Park. So again, not everybody loves that. And this is a horse that was drawn a little farther outside that day. That 100 pop on the buyer speed figure. We'll see if that's true or not, but I'm a little hesitant to support that horse at that price. But you and I both do like some long shots, and I'm going to let you talk about a horse you've liked for quite a while, which is David of Athens. And that's a horse you can toot your own horn on that because you had this horse in debut at 22-1. So this one has shown a lot of ability and a lot of talent, though, and is now stepping up for Brendan Walsh.
Definitely. And before I say, I mean, Big Truz, I do have to say, I agree with you because it is odd when you look to see that, he cut back to a mile. And granted, it's probably because the race just fit in his schedule, but it is something I'm weary of. But I will say he's a beautiful horse. And physically, I mean, you'd imagine that he could get this distance, but I guess we'll see. He's not one that I wanted to support. At 10-1, I looked at David of Athens at 12-1, which, on debut, maybe I have a little bit of a soft spot. And I'm here right up the road from Keeneland, so I'm thinking about it, but not really, because when I saw the way that this horse has been working, it really caught my eye. I mean, last time out, bullet work, 5 furlongs, he went 59-3. This horse has been training really well, and he took a big step up, stretching out to a mile last time out, and that definitely caught my eye. I mean, he went from an 83 to a 96 in his next start. He's a Nyquist out of a Majestic Warrior mare. You'd imagine he can handle the distance, and maybe stretching out will actually be in his favor to a mile and an eighth. I like Tyler Gaffleone aboard, Brendan Walsh, great trainer. I mean, this horse really fits here. And 96, I like that coming into this. He can take a step up and be sort of on a similar level. Certainly at 12-1, I thought that this was pretty interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a horse, it really fits the profile of so many others that we like, and his stablemate Gosger in terms of lightly raced, ascending. The nice part was we know he can run off Lasix because he ran off Lasix in debut. And so, yes, the last two have come with Lasix, but switching off should not be an issue. Yes, going a new distance, but Nyquist will get you to a mile and an eighth. That's not an impossible thing. You and I talked about the Nyquist going a mile and a quarter when we were talking about Nisos potentially, and that's another question. But going a mile and an eighth, Nisos can get that distance without too much problem. So I think that won't be an issue, and definitely one that fits the profile of kind of an ascending horse that is just getting better and better and better. And is working out with Gosper and ran that bullet together, that 59-3 bullet down at Churchill on September 12th. So definitely a dangerous horse. Tyler remains in the irons. He only didn't ride this horse once when he was injured, and otherwise, he's undefeated with him aboard. So interesting horse for sure. I went to a horse that you and I both liked a little bit in the Curlin Stakes as a bit of a long shot underneath, and that's number 1, So Sandy for Cherie DeVoe. A horse that finished second in the Curlin to Chancellor McPatrick. Chancellor, of course, comes back to run fourth in the Grade 1 Woody Stevens, or H. Allen Jerkins, I should say. And, and now has a stud deal, by the way, at Spendthrift. And so Chancer, is a horse that I thought, was pretty good. Strategic Focus, who ran third that day, did not run particularly well, obviously, in the Travers. It didn't break very well and it just had an overall bad day. And so I'm not going to really hold that against the horse, massive step up in competition there. So I'm not going to judge the Curlin field just simply based upon that. But this is a horse that, should like more distance as well. Omaha Beach out of a Tappet mare. You and I both like our Omaha Beaches. We're big fan of that sire a lot. And the Tappet mare underneath, you would imagine, is going to support that additional distance. So I think the 1.125 won't be a problem at all. Certainly finished strong, I thought, in that Curlin. And, one of the things I like is a lot of times you see those horses coming out of the Curlin, they rush back and they run in the Travers, and they don't run that well. And what I like that Cherie did is she's going to take her time with this horse. And we're not going to rush back into the Travers. We're not going to try to run again at Saratoga. We're going to target our next race, Pennsylvania Derby. Now the horses had a chance to kind of recover from that race and get some works in and just kind of fit into a little bit more of a normal routine. Kendrick Carmouche takes the irons. And this is a horse that is going to be able to save all the ground on the inside rail and can win from off the pace too. So Kendrick can get this horse away pretty well on the inside and, maybe have that horse sitting, I don't know, fourth or fifth, but kind of on the inside while a lot of the other horses like Magnitude and others are battling up front. So, could just be able to cut the corner too at the top of the stretch. So we'll see. Could just kind of sit the right type of trip and maybe at 15-1 could move forward a little bit.
I definitely agree with you that the horse could sit a pretty nice trip here with the setup, and the pedigree certainly suggests that, and we know that the horse can handle 1.125 based on the last two.
Yeah.
The one thing that I'm really I mean, Cherie DeVoe, she's a great trainer. This horse, I won't be surprised if this horse runs a big race. I liked him a lot in the Curlin that day. I liked him that day, though, against that field. Chancer McPatrick, I mean, I would never pick in a million years to beat this field. And the horse won 2 grade ones at 2, and now's the right time to get out because he ran 4th after he won the Curlin. The Curlin was against restricted company. I just think it's 2 different levels, but I could imagine the horse certainly running into the money if he does sit a nice trip, which is what you'd imagine as well. 15-1. I mean, that's a pretty good shot to take on this one for a great trainer as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think this is not a horse that I would consider to be a win candidate by any stretch. I think it's more of an underneath play, a horse that if you're looking at a trifecta, superfecta and going, it feels pretty chalky, especially if you have Baeza up top, throw another price in, and because that's what you did. Listen, I might like Baeza up top, still interesting, and throwing a horse like David of Athens and give a little bit more of a price underneath. I kind of, went the other direction, which was, all right, I'll use Gosger up top as an alternative. Yeah, the next 2 make a lot of sense and are pretty chalky, but okay, deeper underneath, I'll throw in a little bit more of a price. So, definitely a horse like So Sandy, one I'd be including in my tries and my supers, but maybe not a horse that I'm worried about including on my pick 5 ticket.
For sure, yeah, and the horse definitely impressed me in person. I mean, I love the pedigree, so I'd imagine the horse, I would not be shocked if the horse is competitive against this field and sits a nice trip. So pretty good one at 15-1 for supers and tries.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, we covered, Moplex is another horse we like a lot. But I think, you've been very vocal about this and rightfully so. He's probably best at a mile and he can get 1.125. He's just not going to get it with this trip is the problem. There's too much speed and he's not going to get 1.125 with this type of speed and setup that he's going to have to face on Saturday. I just don't see that. I think he fades late. Jeremiah Englehart's done a great job training this horse. He's a New York bred who's done a lot of great stuff. He's a 2-time graded stakes winner at 2 and 3 years old. That's an accomplishment right there as a New York bred. Moplex is a really, really nice horse. He's got a future as a stud, probably up in New York somewhere. But the bottom line is this is kind of the same argument you said with So Sandy. This is a different league to some extent. He was thoroughly outclassed in that Jim Dandy, and you just have to imagine it's going to be tough to kind of see him putting together a winning trip here.
Though I think you would agree with this. I like Moplex a lot better than I like Magnitude in here. I mean,
sure.
Moplex
Yeah.
certainly won the draw. I mean, for himself, like he drew pretty well in relation to the trip that he's going to want to sit here. So I won't be surprised if he runs well either. But yeah, I like him a lot better than Magnitude in here for sure.
Yes, there's
Yeah.
about 7 horses in this race I like better than Magnitude. And so there
He's
are
double the
actually,
price, which is crazy.
that's the thing. Yeah, I have to imagine Magnitude floats up a little bit for that 6-1. I mean, I know people are going to see those two big numbers, but I've never believed in those two numbers. I think who you run against matters,
Mhm.
and I think context matters. And if you're just going to be beholden to following numbers, then what are we even doing here? Because then it's just, okay, well, that horse ran that number, so that horse is going to win. Well, that takes no critical thinking skills at all. And so looking at what the sort of trip is going to be, what the class level is going to be,
Mhm.
being creative, but being creative in a smart way, I think is kind of the important thing to do here when you're handicapping this race. And I just don't see a way in which Magnitude suddenly reverts back to this form when you have all these other horses who want to be forwardly placed in this race. And, he was calling it quits well before the 8th pole in the Travers. So it wasn't, he just faded that last half furlong against Sovereignty. No. He got beat by 10 lengths by Bracket Buster. Hello, Bracket Buster, who I like for Vicky Oliver, but come on. Bracket Buster would be, third choice in this race. So, I have a hard time
We're
getting
in a
there with
big race
Magnitude in any way,
Saturday.
shape, or form.
For sure, and I just have to say, I mean, I'm really excited to see Baeza on Saturday. I hope
Oh
that he
my.
wins. Even outside of a handicapping standpoint, it would be nice to see the horse win this race. I'm rooting for him. I
Yeah.
believe he can win. He's the best horse in the field, and I've always thought maybe a mile and an eighth, especially after the Jim Dandy, could be his best distance as well. So I hope that Baeza is able to get his flowers on Saturday. But just even from a handicapping perspective, I think this horse is going to be really hard to beat.
I would agree. He does look very hard to beat. I'm rooting, obviously my top pick is Gosger. I'll be rooting for Gosger, who I've always been a big fan of, going back to that Lexington and the you and I both were high on him in that Preakness. I mean, you hit the straight with journalism and Gosger. I've that horse is a nice horse. I
Yeah.
like that one a lot. So
Mhm.
I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun on
Yeah.
Saturday. But listen, there's a lot of great races Saturday at Parx. You got the Cotillion. That's going to be a lot of
Mhm.
fun. Lacara, Good Cheer, Scottish Lassie. I like that field a lot. You got some nice horses in the sprint, the
Mhm.
dirt mile. A lot of nice horses running at Park. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of content around Pennsylvania Derby Day for you here on NYRA Bets. Kaylie, are you going to buy any horses when you're down there?
Hopefully.
Okay, there you go. Hopefully you heard it here first, folks. Kaylee's buying. She's buying. She's going to
Yeah.
outbid Tenny. She's outbidding everybody. So it's going to be a
It's
lot of
tough
fun.
down here. I mean, even like going into book 5, it's very crowded. The prices are
Yeah.
crazy still. It's not like a typical
Yeah.
Keeneland September sale. So pretty interesting. Saw a lot of interesting horses. The early votings look really nice, just as a side note. But
Yeah.
yeah, lots
No,
going on.
it's good to know, and you'll be sharing more of those side notes on social media, on YouTube, on X, a little bit over the next few days as well. So people interested in the sales can certainly check out Kaylie's feed. Always a lot of really informative stuff. Might catch up with a certain Hall of Fame trainer while she's down there and chat with him for a little bit. But yeah, I'm going to wire you some money, and you're going to buy a Rock Your World for me. Okay, just promise me that. All right, I'm going to do that.
Perfect. I'll make a
And
list
that
tonight.
would be the graded stakes winning sire Rock Your World now.
Yeah.
That he's got a filly who's got the most points for the Kentucky Oaks next year already.
Mhm.
So me and Kenny McPeak, we're buying Rock Your Worlds, baby. All right, that is going to do it
You
for
were
this.
right. He's
Well, let's not hold a parade for me yet. Let's not, let's hold off on. Let's not. I'm not going to throw out my shoulder too much, patting myself in the back. I was right a little bit on a sire. But listen, it's going
I
to be a
think
lot of fun. Kaylie, can't wait to see all of your content. Thank you so much for tuning into this preview of the Pennsylvania Derby. For Kaylie Shapiro, my name is Matthew DeSantis. Wishing you a great and prosperous day at the races, and reminding you, friends, it's now post time.